Good morning students. Today we discuss about the Varanus part 2. In our previous lecture we have discussed the habitat, food feeding and digestion, respiration and circulatory system of Varanus. In this lecture we discuss about the nervous system and excretory system, endoskeletal system and reproductive system of Varanus. Now let us start the excretory system first of all. Excretory system of Varanus consists of a pair of kidney, a pair of ureter and unpaired urinary bladder, single urinary bladder. Kidney are elongated compact dark red bodies situated in the posterior portion of the body cavity on either side of the vertebral column. Kidneys are metanephric in nature. Histologically, kidneys are composed of narrow and coiled uriniferous tubules which are embedded in connective tissue with the blood vessels, nerves and muscles. These tubules communicate with their corresponding ureter. Ureter from each kidney arise a narrow, short, delicate ureter. Both ureter open behind the dorsal side into the middle chamber uridium of cloaca. Their opening into uridium lie a small papillae. Urinary bladder open into the uridium of cloaca ventrally. Physiology of excretion: waste nitrogen or nitrogenous waste are largely excreted as uric acid in Varanus. Hence, they are called as uricotelic. Water is reabsorbed in uridium with the precipitation of urates. This method allows a greater economy of water, which is essential for these animals. The bladder and cloaca of reptiles often assist the renal tubules of regulation of water level in the blood. In completely terrestrial animals, water has to be conserved. Their kidney do not lose much water and they excrete urea or uric acid, but not in ammonia. Nervous system. Nervous system of Varanus. Nervous system of Varanus is divisible into three parts: central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomous nervous system. Central nervous system comprises the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system comprises the nerves arising from the central nervous system, that is from the brain and from the spinal cord. Autonomous nervous system includes the nerves and ganglions that control and coordinate such organs which are not under voluntary control, or involuntary activities are controlled by the autonomous nervous system. It comprises the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This is the brain, including forebrain, 2 and 3 and 4 brain, and this is 4, 5, 6 middle brain and 7, 8 hind brain of Varanus. And these are the cranial nerves. 12 pair of cranial nerves arise from the brain of Varanus. Brain of lizard is relatively small and simple in proportion to the body. Brain is protected by two meanings or two membranes. They are durameter and pyometer. Olfactory lobes are large, differentiated into olfactory tract and olfactory valve. There is no tuberculum of olfaction. Olfactory lobes are enclosed in olfactory ventricle. Cerebral hemisphere are oval and narrow anterior-posterior end. These are medially separated by mid-dorsal fissure. Cerebral hemispheres do not cover olfactory and optic lobes but partly overlap the diencephalon. There is no corpus callosum, and the surface of cerebral hemisphere is smooth and not differentiated into lobes. Cerebral cortex is not well developed. Corpora strata is quite conspicuous. Lateral ventricles are unbranched. Diencephalon is a small rounded area and pressed within the cerebellum and midbrain. Diencephalon is the roof is thin and form anterior choroid plexus. Epiphyseal apparatus possess an anterior parietal body and posterior pineal body. Optic thalami are the present, but the middle commissure is lacking. Pineal eyes are present. Two optic lobes are oval and present dorsally to form corpora bigemina. Cerebellum is poorly developed and it is in form of flattened ridge at the anterior end of medulla oblongata. The roof of medulla oblongata is thin and vascular, which form the posterior choroid plexus. Endoskeleton of Varanus. Now, endoskeleton of Varanus is divided into axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton consists of skull, vertebral column, sternum and ribs. while the appendicular skeleton consists of pectoral girdle, pelvic girdle and bones of fore and hind limbs. Skull of Varanus is monocondylic, means one single occipital condyle is present in the skull of Varanus. This is the endoskeleton of articulated bones of Varanus. This is the skull, and this is the cervical, 8 cervical bones from atlas to typical cervical, and these are the thoracicolumbar bones and sacral region, and this is the caudal region from the this total 83 to 85 bones are present in the skeleton of Varanus. And the vertebral column has epiphyses are absent in the vertebral column in the vertebrae. Centrum of vertebrae are procellus, divided into 4 regions, 8 cervical vertebrae and 22 thoracicolumbar vertebrae, 2 sacral vertebrae, 51 to 53 variation occur species to species in caudal vertebrae. Total number of vertebrae are 83 to 85. Cervical vertebrae are included atlas, axis and typical cervical, and these are the structure of atlas vertebrae from the atlas vertebrae to the caudal vertebrae: atlas, axis, typical cervical, thoracicolumbar and sacral and caudal vertebrae. Appendicular endoskeleton. Pectoral girdle. Pectoral girdle is situated at the anterior end of the trunk and consists of scapula, suprascapula, coracoid and epicoracoid. The bones of forelimbs are the contain humerus, radius ulna, carpals, metacarpals and fingers, digits. The pelvic girdle situated in the hind end of the trunk and provide articulation to the bones of hind limb. Each half is composed of ilium, pubis and ischium. Their meeting is pointed at the acetabulum for the head of humerus. This is the 3 bones, ilium, ischium, pubis, and this is the acetabulum cavity where the head of the femur is joined, and this is tibiofibula and tarsals and metatarsals and phalanges. Caudal vertebrae. Caudal vertebrae progressively become smaller towards the posterior side, posterior end, finally getting reduced in mere bony rod-like centrum. Centrum is procellus in the vertebrae. Neural spine is long, pointed and backwardly directed. Pre and post zygapophyses are well developed. Transverse processes are long, slender and outward and downward directed. Most characteristic feature of vertebrae is the presence of a Y-shaped chevron bone attached to the ventral surface of the centrum, which were 2 nodules of this purpose. Y-shaped chevron bone is the 2 humeral spine arch attached to the ventral surface of the centrum and long downwardly directed humeral spine. And now the reproductive system of Varanus. First of all, male reproductive system. Male reproductive system include a pair of testes, a pair of vasa deferens and a pair of hemipenis. Testes are 2 white oval bodies situated in the body cavity, suspended from the dorsal wall of the mesorchium with mesorchium. The vasa deferentia are called as Wolffian duct also. The vasa deferentia are narrow convoluted tubule running backward from the epididymis to testis, open into the uridium of cloaca. From each testis, several delicate vasa deferentia form the union of seminiferous tubules, which generate the sperms by the spermatogenesis. A copulatory organ, hemipenis, is present in 2 in pair. There is 2 aversible hollow sac lying behind the cloacal aperture. They appear like pocket like when swelling and the most cylindrical when everted. The hemipenis consists of a proximal heart, stalk, pedicel and the distal soft head glands. And the female reproductive system includes the reproductive ovaries and oviduct. Yellowish white ovaries, irregular in shape and situated in the posterior part of kidney. Ovaries are right ovary is somewhat anterior to the left. Each ovary held the dorsal body wall of mesorchium. A follicle contain oocyte and their different stages of development. Ovaries formed the several lobules and lined germinal epithelium. Shall undergo oogenesis and float. Eggs are float in the coelomic fluid. Oviduct are called Mullerian duct. Mullerian duct carry the egg to the coelomic cavity. Copulation occur at the age of 2 years and lifespan is 27 years approximately, occur on land and rainy water. Rainy season is the breeding season, male and female come close to each other and hug each other, and the fertilization is internal.